Welcome back to Restless. It's a cold winter's day here in sunny New England. And you've joined myself, Father Joseph, along with Lauren and Diane, as we restlessly seek the face of Christ. And do you ever get depressed by New England winters?
No.
Do you love this weather? Cold, clammy?
No, I don't love it, but I don't get depressed by it.
Oh, that's good.
I think I used to when I was a kid, but I'm enjoying now more, I think, the 4 seasons, the difference in temperatures.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I
don't think it gets too terribly cold here compared to, Wisconsin or Canada.
That is true.
Definitely not. Like,
You don't have
it's
to-
all
Christmas
relative.
Eve and Christmas Day this year were pretty lovely. Right?
They really were.
Mid-40s.
Yeah.
We get that often throughout the winter.
I can't remember the last time I've had a snowy Christmas. Do you? I don't
No.
remember. It's been several years.
I
Yeah.
used to wish for it all the time as a kid. It happened like twice, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's global
Couple
warming
times.
for you. But
And my running rule is like 32 degrees and up, I wear shorts. So the amount of
Whoa.
times that
You're
I actually
hardcore.
wore pants last year, I mean,
not
it
very
was
often.
probably a handful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last year was exceptionally warm. This
Mm-hmm.
year, I think it's supposed to be exceptionally warm too, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've only really worn pants a couple of times
Wow.
so far.
So far, so good. Thank goodness.
One of the great parts about living here is the 4 seasons.
Yes.
That is true. You get all 4.
And pretty flowers, beautiful trees. Like, you don't get that in Florida.
I'm really so happy to hear that you love it because I'll tell you, a lot of young adults really don't like Connecticut.
Really?
Yeah. Well, for one reason, the taxes are sky high.
Yes.
It's
Texas.
a very expensive cost of living. For some, they say that it's not a good dating scene or it's, you can't raise a family here. It's too liberal or this or that.
Those people aren't from here, clearly.
But what is the stereotype? Because you were talking before this episode started about the stereotype of how people view Connecticut.
Well, Diane and I are from Greenwich. So
Which is old money.
oftentimes, Diane, tell me if this happens to you, if I say where I'm from and it's a friend or a contemporary, there's some jab right away. Oh, Greenwich. Oh, right?
Yep.
For
absolutely.
the wealth. And that's true. Greenwich is a very wealthy town.
Oh my gosh, yes. Name some famous people that live in Greenwich.
Diana Ross, her son was on my basketball team in 5th
What?
grade.
That's crazy,
So
see?
she actually was in the stands. I didn't know who she was, but my parents definitely were like, oh man. And she cheered for me because I was the only girl.
Way to go.
Yeah.
I think Teixeira he was previously on the Yankees.
Oh, Mark Teixeira?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a house there. Tom Brady, did he have a house?
Tom Brady did at one point.
Yeah,
I don't
at
know if
one
he still
point.
does.
That was a
now he's
rumor. Who
divorced.
cares?
It might have been a rumor.
Bye-bye.
I don't know.
Not a Tom Brady fan.
No, me neither. Moving on.
Paul Newman. I feel like that's one
Yeah,
I heard.
Paul Newman, I
Regis
think.
Philbin, or at least his favorite restaurant was Valbella,
Yep.
which is really close to where Diane and I grew up.
That is a good place, Valbella.
Happily
I've never
Giffords.
eaten there. I would like to, though. Man, I've been driving past that
You need to go to
restaurant since I
Valbella.
was
It's-
5 years
I
old.
mean-
I literally lived walking distance from
You
that.
have to take out a loan,
Yeah, just be prepared to
But-
open your wallet.
but it's a good
Or
place.
get someone
Have
take me there.
Yeah, ask for a date to bring you.
Yeah, what about Diana Ross's son? Is he still available?
Oh, he's married.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he married maybe what's her name? Ashley Simpson or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that he played on one of my brother's baseball or basketball teams.
That's
that makes sense since we're the same age.
wow. That's that is crazy.
No, yeah, there's
Yeah, see.
a few that pop up,
I mean,
but
I've been assigned to 3 parishes down this neck of the woods, and I've never met anyone famous in 7 years living in Stanford.
oh, Brian has a great story too about Allen Houston, Knicks player.
Oh, okay.
Saw him at the Griff, I believe, playing golf, and they just exchanged pleasantries, like while practicing putting. And then Alan left and like called out to Brian, like, "See you later, Brian. Nice chatting with you, Alan." You know what I mean? And like Brian just loves that. This is my brother. That he had this little exchange with a famous basketball player who he admired and looked up to.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And actually, I was a camp counselor for his daughter too. ESF, Greenwich Academy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Education, sports, and fun. It was a camp. Brian and I did it one year. We hated it. We hated that camp.
So you went back to be a counselor?
Then I was a counselor though.
Hated it
And
less,
so
I
was
hope.
Brian. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. There's certainly, though, yes, a lot of wealth, a lot of wealthy people, a lot of beautiful homes. I always played sports. So in high school, that's kind of where that became apparent when you go to someone's house for a team dinner. It's like, oh my gosh, right?
Mm,
It's huge. And then I worked in architecture for 5 years in Greenwich. So we would call them McMansions. I'll say like 6 to 10,000 square feet. Like a mansion would be larger than that.
Yeah.
But just these beautiful homes that I helped design, and they were built or they were renovated. So there's a lot of beauty in backcountry Greenwich for sure.
Definitely is. But that makes it, some people, especially young adults, feel like, wow, I don't fit in here, or I need to go to a place that's a little more my vibe, unless you're a multimillionaire. Greenwich is not
Stanford
a lot of people's vibes.
fits though for young adults.
Stanford's pretty good. And of course, New York City, a lot of young adults move down there, although that's very expensive too.
Yeah, there's certainly a high cost of living, whether you're in Greenwich. I mean, you can get a shack for probably $800,000. It's the land value, right?
Yeah.
So then you got to build on top of that.
Location, right?
Yeah. I mean, they say salaries are higher in this area as compared to Arizona or Florida, things like that. So, I mean, there might be a little bit in terms of the offset of the cost of living, but yeah, it's very expensive. And I think that's why, quite honestly, a lot of women work. And it's 2-income household, because in order to live here, you kind of have to, unless you have a really good job.
Yeah. And I live now in Monroe, Connecticut, which is a little bit less that way.
Yeah.
So thankfully,
certainly the further
not
up
all
you go.
Connecticut is
Right.
is Greenwich, thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean, but then you're
No
dealing
offense.
with.
No, yeah, I mean, it's true.
But there's
Definitely.
less jobs up there, so if you're living up there, it's a little bit less expensive, or a lot less expensive sometimes. But you're battling the traffic to come down, so it's an offset of, okay, how am I going to spend my time? Am I going to see my kids? Things like that.
Yeah, that's very true. So, do you personally like living in Connecticut, or would you move elsewhere if you could?
I mean, I enjoy living in Connecticut. I've come to appreciate, like Lauren was talking about, the seasons, like the change, because I think we have the best of everything in terms of the weather. My whole family is here in Connecticut in Fairfield County. So, I mean, I adore my nieces and nephew. I see them all the time. And now that I have them, that role of being the aunt is so important to me. And so I think it would be very difficult to give that up. But that being said, if God called me somewhere, for marriage or whatever, I'm not, attached with my, hands clinging to the state. But
Yeah.
it would have to be the right circumstances. Like, I'm not going to go and just, I think I'm just going to, I'm kind of tired of the scene here. I'm going to move to Boston or try out Texas. That's not my personality, to just up and leave.
Which a lot of young adults do.
Yes.
They just kind of up and leave. Partly it's because I think jobs are more flexible when you're a young adult, but partly it is that. Like, I want a different vibe.
Yeah.
Check out a new city.
For me, it's very important to be close to my family, especially just like I said now, like with my nieces and stuff, and just wanting to see them more.
Yeah. I think that's a lost gift. I'm originally from Maryland, and I do miss not watching my, 3 nephews grow up.
Yeah, they're
Miss that
almost
a
like an extension, my children, so to speak, because I don't have children. And so just the gift of being able to see them, you really become an important person in their life. And
Right.
being the godmother of a couple of them, that's very important to me, to be able to see the growth and spend time with them and expose them to the faith.
Mm-hmm. Would you stay in Connecticut, Lauren?
Yeah, I definitely like this state a lot. I also love that we have the coast.
Yeah,
true.
the water's beautiful.
Can be nice.
Most other states don't have that, do they? No.
Yeah, Ohio doesn't. Nope.
Ohio gets a lot of hate too. I do like Ohio. I went to Ohio State, but I would not live there. Clearly, I left when I graduated. And
Yeah.
I was not.
I also went to Ohio, but barely. Steubenville is right on the border.
That's right.
We're more West Virginia
That
than
is
Ohio.
right. Yeah. So I've been blessed. Like, we grew up 4 miles from the water, Greenwich Point. That's where I learned how to ride my bike. Just because it's a big parking lot. That's why my parents took us there, because it's practical. But it's also such a beautiful park and the water. And I just find it's very peaceful, as many people do. I take my family's dog, Shaggy, to Coscub Park often. That's my favorite park around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's also right on the coast. It's just so easy and convenient. And I know people have lakes, lake life. I don't think it's the same.
Yeah. No, there's something very special about that. But, one of the downsides I hear to living in Connecticut is that the Catholic faith is not very strong here. In the sense that, one time this was a hub of immigrants from Italy and Ireland, and at that point we had a burgeoning Catholic population, And since the immigration from that realm, now most immigration is through Mexico and through South America. So, it seems that the faith is kind of like, I don't want to say dying out, because we've certainly found lots of pockets that it's very vibrant. But I mean, do you get that sense when you go to just a regular Catholic parish that it's not like as on fire as you may have heard in the South? Or
No, I only know here, really. I mean, when I was in school, I was at the Newman Center, and that was full of young people, obviously. But I understand why there's decline. I think, we have the stats that back this up, right? Couples that have divorced, which is many people that are now our age, right? Millennials. If they grew up with divorced parents and dad wasn't going to mass with the family, then those kids very likely are no longer going.
Right.
So we know that. And I encounter many Catholics, right? Most people that I meet, whether it's in my sports leagues or whatever, right? It comes out all the time. Oh yeah, I'm Catholic. But they're not practicing, right? That's so common because it was not important to them. They weren't formed properly. The confirmation was a graduation, whatever. So that is the reality. But I'm very happy with the Catholic community here. I was, I think, very clearly brought to St. Cecilia's parish, and now I serve the parish in multiple ways. And I formed great relationships with a bunch of people there, not like all my age, but we now serve young adults at the parish very intentionally and have seen a lot of success with that. So, I'm happy, and I like serving. It's just clearly what God is asking me to do right now. And I'm happy to do that. So
nice.
Yeah.
I think statistically too, Connecticut is one of the oldest states in terms of like median age of people. I think, you have a lot less young adults, a lot less youth, and there's a lot more kind of like older folks.
Well, sure, that could be. But if you're in Stanford or in the surrounding area, you're around a ton of young adults.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we don't have enough housing for the population. So there's all these new buildings going up, which concerns me slightly about, more traffic and things. But Stanford really has become a great city, especially from when my parents first moved here. It's totally transformed. And they serve the community a lot. There's festivals, there's concerts,
that's
just a lot of things to bring people together,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And we are very blessed with a lot of great like local shrines and local religious pilgrimage places. Where are some of the ones you've visited here in Connecticut, New York, kind of the tri-state area?
I've been up to Lourdes and Litchfield a couple of times. So they have an outdoor Stations of the Cross. Have you ever been there?
I have, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very nice, a little grotto.
Sure.
So it's pretty. It's a beautiful drive, too, if you're coming from southern Connecticut.
And of course, the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Only a couple hours from here.
Yeah, I've been there.
That's a beautiful one.
I recommend.
Have you been down to the cloisters in New York City?
No.
Okay, if you've never been, did you know what it is?
I've heard of it.
So John Rockefeller decided to basically take apart 4 convents and monasteries over in Europe and reassemble them in New York.
Wow.
So it's a museum, part of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but it's only medieval Christian art.
Wow.
So absolutely beautiful. Stained glass windows and sculptures and crucifixes, all sorts of stuff. Definitely well worth your time. And right down the street from that is St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, first American citizen saint, right around the corner in New York.
Make a little field trip.
Yep. But not the only saint in the tri-state area. Who else we got? We have a blessed here in
Blessed
Connecticut.
McGivney?
Blessed Michael McGivney, founder of the Knights of Columbus in New Haven, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Who would the other one be?
Well, if you go further up near Albany, we have the North American Martyrs.
Oh, right.
Shrine.
Yes, the shrine there.
Yeah, Saint Isaac Jogues, Rene Goupil.
Yep, that's about a 2.5-hour drive from where we are.
Yeah.
I think there's also a lot of just being so close. So one of the benefits, I think, of Connecticut, especially if you live in the southern Connecticut, Fairfield County area, is that you have the beauty of the suburbs. I know we're talking about Stamford right now, but like there's the beauty of Greenwich, Darien, like the less city-ish locations, so to speak, and you're away from the hustle and bustle of New York, but close enough such that you can get in there and commute, for a job. But the other awesome thing is that you can get into New York City so easily, and there's tons of beautiful churches to visit. I mean, have you been to St. Vincent Fair?
No,
Upper East Side?
Everyone keeps telling me I got to go
it's
see that.
It's gorgeous. I walked in there and I was like, I feel like I'm in Europe. It was just, and there's a lot of different churches that you could spend a day kind of just church touring.
Yeah, it's true. But, since you brought up New York City, let's talk about, and I know a lot of our listeners are listening from New York City, but, there's the stereotype of New Yorkers being very cold and especially as Connecticut, almost being like a bedroom community in a lot of ways of New York. Do you find that people here are perhaps less friendly than other parts of the country that you may have visited?
I mean, our family vacationed in South Carolina pretty much every year, so I would say there's definitely maybe a different level of hospitality, depending on where you're from. I think people here just tend to, it's so fast-paced, and especially New York City, like you're not going to, when you're walking through Grand Central at, 5 o'clock, people are not going to stop and
chat,
start a conversation with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you might get a rare person that would, but everyone is just
honestly, that would be weird. I would be like freaked out if someone did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's more I think the culture is more just keep to yourself, especially in New York City. Like whenever I go in for a client, it's never, I don't have people who are, for example, you sit on the train and the person next to you puts their headphones in immediately and opens up the book or the laptop. It's not expected that you would start a conversation with someone or that someone would start a conversation with you. Whereas I think that could be different in other parts of the country. So people may see that as being cold.
Yeah. I don't see that as cold either. That's totally my vibe. I mean, I know as a priest, you're supposed to be always open for evangelization, but and I always wear my clerics when I fly. But I actually really like when people don't want to talk to me on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just do your own thing, man.
So what do people ask you?
They don't. Maybe I put off that vibe of like, I don't want to talk, but I've only one time gotten like into a discussion with someone. It was actually in an airport. It was this, I was praying my breviary and this like 15-year-old kid comes up to me. He's like, "Hey man, you reading the Bible?" And so we started talking about the Bible and stuff. That's not true. There was one other time that this guy who was a Muslim came up to me and tried to debate.
Okay.
That was interesting. We didn't convince each other.
Mm.
But yeah, no, I appreciate that kind of coldness. I don't know.
I think hospitality has its place, like I shop at Trader Joe's. I love it. People are very friendly there, I would say, right? It kind of depends where you are. If you're in Grand Central Terminal, that's not the place.
Yeah, there's like a time and a place, right?
Yeah.
And I like to say that all New York and Connecticut people are mean and, that's just not true. Everyone's personality is different. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts, Like,
yeah. I say New Yorkers will always have your back, right? That's known, but it's true. Like if there's some kind of injustice publicly or if someone's in danger, people will help you.
Except for that one famous case, about that stabbing. There's some stabbing of probably, I think, in the 80s where like she was crying out for help and like 45 people heard her and nobody did anything and nobody even called the police. But that was kind of a famous case. But
yeah, there's probably something psychological going on there, right?
Yeah.
Like you're hearing it, but you're not seeing it. Yeah. You're wondering if it's real or not. But like if someone grabbed you or something on the street or something like that, I think people step in.
I would hope.
Here.
Yeah, I would hope. I found coming from Maryland, actually, I like the people of Connecticut much better. And this is my theory that, being from Maryland, just outside of D.C., like pretty much, I think like 10% or more of the population works for the government. And so everybody's very political. Like they'll never tell you exactly what they think of you down in Maryland. From my experience, that they'll kind of just beat around the bush. They won't be direct with you. They'll kind of like two-face you. Here in Connecticut and in New York, like they'll tell you to your face if they don't like you. But when they do like you, they'll tell you and they're genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always really liked and appreciated like the refreshing just honesty.
I think I also really I have a type A personality. I appreciate ambition and drive, not for the sake of money making or anything, but people who just like use their talents for the Lord to the fullest extent aren't lazy.
Yeah.
I think that you get a lot of that up here in Connecticut. Some people complain too that, the state is liberal and all that stuff. But honestly, in terms of the faith community, I've found pockets that I feel the faith is often, when you're challenged more, the faith has to become stronger. So I do feel that there is, in order to sort of combat more of that liberal ideology that you find in the schools and all this stuff, which actually is prevalent throughout the country now, like you do have, I feel, a stronger faith-based community for those who are
I found that too. Yeah, I found that people, I guess because we live in such a secularized environment, I think there is that strengthening that you mentioned.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a detriment in terms of politics and the way that the state kind of,
Yeah. So, especially when we talk about the young adult community, it's so mobile. So many people are moving here and there. And I know we lost our, co-host Javier all the way back in the beginning. And I can think of, a dozen people in the young adult community that have just moved out. What are the pluses and minuses to that? To have a community that's so fluid. And is that a good thing, or is it a bad thing, or is it both?
I think it just is. People maybe can dwell on the people that have left, but there are always new people coming in.
But how quickly do you form like a trusting relationship with someone?
I think it depends on the person. But I've certainly learned to take time to get to know people more than I had in the past. Because I could easily just pick out a few qualities, let's say, and then this is natural, right? As you're getting to know someone, you have a few indications of who they are, but then you will form the rest of the picture based on your own perception or your own stereotypes or relationships you've had in the past. But that's not who that person is. It takes time to get to know them. And the advice is 3 months. Get to know someone for 3 months, right?
Oh, is that the kind of the...
Yes. So one of the things we did at St. Cecilia's, we've done it twice now, is a course on dating. And we use what's called the relationship attachment model. So this is something that 2 PhDs, doctors, marriage and family therapists have developed. And it applies to all relationships. So that's one thing I've realized, right? I could meet a nice girl, right? A friendly girl, and just kind of put it all together. Oh, this is this kind of person. She's not that person. She hasn't revealed to me all those things. I shouldn't trust her, right? I should take the time to get to know her, right? That's the first one. Know, rely, trust, commit, and touch. Those are the 5 elements of the series, as far as dating goes. But anyway, it takes time to get to know people. So yeah, it depends. There are people, obviously, like all of us, you just click right away, right? Yeah. Guy, girl, it doesn't matter. Relationship, just friendship, you just click. But still, you need time. To get to know them and people's true selves to come out, right? Because we all have many sides. Like that's another thing from the course. They talk about our faces, which is an acronym. Like there's more into it, but basically we all have many different phases, right? How you are with your parishioners, how you are with young adults, how you are at the kids at Cardinal Kong Academy, right? How you are when you're going on a hike or playing sports. Like these are all our different personas. So it takes time to get to know them all. But anyway, it totally varies. But there are always new people coming in, and that's always exciting. And now that I've been in this community for like years, I think I'm certainly one of the leaders. I help run events for young adults now, or I've been doing that. But recognizing, there's someone here that I've never seen before, right? Yeah. And like the joy of that, like going over and saying hello because they don't know anyone, and you could tell they're like standing alone and they're looking around the room. Who's going to speak to me? I love that. Oh, hey.
I think
I'm Lauren.
You have a gift for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Because I think most people...
It's pretty easy.
I find that, even as a priest, I find that challenging, to strike up a new conversation. I think in part because, you don't know the person after one conversation. And for me, at least, when I meet a new parishioner, sometimes I want to see if they're actually going to stick around before I start investing in them.
That's good.
Because there's a lot of times I meet somebody in passing and then they never come back again because they went to another parish and they moved or whenever they were just visiting and I didn't know that, and so. Yeah,
that's happened to me with girlfriends too. Oh, let's get drinks. Like that type. Let's get drinks. Yeah. I mean, I reached the point where I just, yeah. But I'm not going to put in the effort anymore.
Yeah. So
like prove to me that you actually care. Like I'm the type, maybe that sounds bad. I'm the type, I actually care right from the beginning. I will invest in you. Like I want to bring you along in the faith or whatever, help you.
Yeah.
But many people are not that way.
No, they're kind of non-committal to say,
very flaky, looking for something, or they're just in between relationships or something, girls like that. And then they fall off the face of the earth.
Right.
So I've just learned, no, let me take my time here. And if they're serious, like it'll become apparent. And with some, it does.
So that's been something that I've been challenged with the young adult community is that, I want to invest, but I want to make sure that you're willing to invest too.
Yeah.
In relationships, in ministry together, whatever.
Well, yeah, let them take the initiative then, right?
Yeah.
Because people throw things out all the time. Oh, we should have dinner.
Right.
Oh, you should come over. Oh, yeah, that's great. And then just wait for the invitation.
Right. Or even like with ministry, people are like, oh, let's do this together. Let's,
Oh, I've heard
start a young adult Bible study or whatever. And it never happens, or
it falls apart and over. Yeah. I've heard priests who they say no, right? You say no first, because then they'll be like, wait a minute. I think this is really something good that we should do. And then maybe they'll approach you again. Or you say no, and they're like, oh, well, he said no. They weren't really invested then.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. What do you think about like the transitory nature of young adult life? Like, when somebody moves every 2, 3, 4 years to a new community, is that positive, negative for their own spiritual life or for the life of the community?
I mean, I think it makes it difficult to establish roots, from an organization perspective. I know that we're having troubles with that in terms of young Catholic professionals here, the chapter that we started in Fairfield County. It's just very transient, and that's one of the things that the bishop brought up in our recent meeting with him, of trying to navigate a landscape where people are constantly coming in and leaving, because it makes it hard to gather people who are willing to commit to leadership for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, if you don't have people who can give the time and who are going to be here, you can't really build the foundation for a successful chapter in this case. So I think it makes it difficult. There are positives, obviously, because there's new people constantly coming in. So you get new energy, new faces, and all that stuff.
New ideas.
Yeah. I think there's a slew of reasons for why people are coming and leaving. But, sometimes it may be a product of the culture of just you get bored with things and you feel the need to switch it up.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a good thing, but I'm definitely seeing in our generation and the next generation of sort of just, with social media and technology, just getting short attention spans, right? So this is boring, so I'm going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other people who move to be closer. As you get older, a lot of people want to be closer to their family, so they move back, or they get a new job opportunity and they kind of have to go.
Yeah.
And Stanford is very much, there's a lot of finance and accounting here, and people are coming in all the time.
There's a lot of stopping ground, I think, to advance in the career and then move to a place where you can actually raise a family.
Yeah. So we can't make any broad-based assumptions about why people are doing this or that and sort of the underlying reasons. But it does make it challenging, I think, just because I'm very involved in the young adult Catholic, ministry here. It certainly makes it challenging to build something because you want many hands, and normally the people who are leading the things are involved in a lot of different things already.
Yeah, I only have two thoughts about that. One is, did you know that the Benedictines take a vow of stability, which means that barring some extraordinary circumstance, they actually take a vow to never be transferred from their monastery.
Wow.
So they're there for the rest of their life, 50 years or more.
Okay.
And it's really challenging, because if you don't like the guys you're with, too bad. Tough noogies, you're not gonna get a chance to move. But it's also that blessing, because you do put down deep roots, and you have to learn to love. You have to choose to love it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was down in Baltimore, there was this one young adult fellow by the name of Matt who was from Pittsburgh, and he moved to Baltimore, and he got involved. He was like an adult altar server at our parish, and just really did a whole lot. And I kind of asked him, I was like, wow, man, you've really embraced Baltimore life. You're starting to not root for the Steelers anymore. But he was, doing all kinds of recreation stuff, 7 nights a week. And he's like, yeah, I just decided, I'm going to just embrace this. This is my home. I want to stay here forever. And I'm like, that's really cool to set down those kind of roots. And
yeah,
I think spiritually it challenges you to, as you say, boredom can be such a quick and easy thing to fix if you just change, make it change. But you can really grow through that boredom of wow, all right, now I've made this commitment to this parish or to this young adult community or this, this group of friends, and I got to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. And life involves suffering. It's not all roses, So, I've definitely thought about that just in terms of, the dating scene. You wonder, would it be better to just go to a new state and try something out? But, my family's here. And so I want to make a commitment to, set roots down unless God calls me, But I'm not going to go out and move to Texas or to, some conservative state to just in the hopes of,
meeting some guy.
Exactly. You just kind of have to deal with the circumstances that God gives you and know that he'll bring a greater good out of it one way or another.
Yeah.
It may not turn out the way that you are envisioning it, but I think that there is something sort of meritorious in making commitments and sacrificing things for him and for the sake of like.
And the old saying is very true, like bloom where you're planted,
Hmm.
right? Wherever God has put you, that's where you're called to really invest.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to make an effort to go out. There are tons of things that you can get involved in, especially in terms of volunteer stuff or just honestly growing in your faith, you know, like whatever talents, kind of have to figure out what gifts God has given you and make sure that you're using them as opposed to, you know.
Yeah. No, in no way it's no judgment on anyone that has moved a lot because there's so many different
Right. There's, I mean, and
make it
yeah, just
needed,
like
but still.
I think one key is, you know, if you have a relationship with God, if God's will brings you somewhere and then it's tough, that does not mean leave, right? I mean, we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when things are hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of times too, the devil will come in, right? Desolations, which has happened to you in your spiritual life, right?
Those
As soon as you
all of us,
follow God's will, the devil will try to attack that. So it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And how do you overcome it? How do you persevere it? Versus just, oh man, Connecticut, it's so tough here. Maybe I'll go to some other bigger city or better city, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not the answer. The answer is try to get close to God. See where he's calling you, or what is he asking you,
Right.
you know, right now in this difficult situation.
And that can also be the case with how some young adults jump from job to job too.
Yeah.
You know, they can't handle this. Oh, this boss, you know, whatever. Like, okay, you know, maybe you are called to a different path, or maybe you're called to actually just really invest and use this time for formation.
Exactly.
But that's a good sort of point to bring up in terms of involving God in the discernment and the decision, as opposed to just,
Yeah.
you know, the step of a finger. I'm moving to Florida or wherever.
Yeah. No, it's definitely important.
Those are big
to include
decisions. Yeah.
And what are you seeking too? That's the other key, right? Like, oh, if I move to this other city, I could make more money in this job. But I don't think God cares about how much money we make.
Yeah, it depends.
Right?
I mean,
He wants us to serve him. And we do that in all different ways, right? We're all called to different things. But I would say just be careful to not go for worldly temptations, right?
yeah,
More wealth, more honor, more fame, like whatever, right?
I mean, if you want to advance in your career, but make sure that that's for God's glory and make sure that's so that you can perhaps raise a family someday and provide for them well. You know, all for God's glory. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. So thanks for joining us in this episode of Restless. My challenge for you is to indeed make the place where you're living the best place that it can be. Bring the kingdom of God to whatever town you find yourself in, even if it's New York City.
Whatever job you have,
Whatever job you have.
whatever young adult community you're in.
Absolutely. Invest in it. Invest in it. Don't be someone who just kind of comes and floats and leaves. You know, be someone who's willing to invest, even if you're there for just a short time, because you have a gift to give and you have something that God wants to do in your life through that community. You've found us on Veritas Catholic Network, 1350 AM, 103.9 FM. You've also found us online on YouTube, on other platforms.
Facebook page. We
Facebook
don't
page.
update.
Yeah, go on our Facebook page and leave a comment, please. But tune in next time to Restless.